Nobody expected the truth to leak like this. Not the negotiators, not the executives, not the people who believed they still had time. For months, everything had unfolded behind closed doors. Quiet calls, draft language passed back and forth, numbers adjusted, promises floated but never written down. That's how negotiations are supposed to work. Slow, controlled, predictable. Until suddenly they weren't. The moment the documents began circulating, the story flipped. Not just for the league, but for everyone watching from the outside. Fans who trusted the process, players who had waited patiently, networks quietly weighing their options. And at the center of it all was one unavoidable name: Caitlin Clark. Insiders say the CBA talks were already tense, not explosive but heavy, with pay structures debated, media rights argued, and scheduling concessions delayed. While leadership insisted progress was being made, the leaked pages told a different story, one of hesitation, imposed limits, and a growing fear of giving a single player too much leverage. That fear mattered, because leverage was already shifting. While the league negotiated with itself, the audience was moving, slowly at first, then all at once. Fans weren't tuning out of basketball, they were tuning into her. That's when the first real mistake happened. Instead of reading the moment, leadership doubled down on control, keeping the spotlight inside the system, the messaging uniform, the power centralized. The documents don't suggest malice, just an outdated mindset, because the world outside those meeting rooms had already changed.
What does bother me is some of the people I deeply respect, their basketball credentials, their basketball history, their commitment to basketball and women's basketball, I think have really not covered themselves in glory with some of this commentary. And I'm going to read you a quote, Colin, if I may, from, again, this person might know more about about women's basketball than any person who's ever lived, and that's Gino Auriemma. Gino Auriemma was on with my pal Dan Patrick a couple months ago when the Fever were struggling. And this was the quote: "This kid's on the wrong team. She's got the wrong skill set to handle the physicality in the league, and she's a rookie. This rookie class isn't even one of the best classes in the last 10 years. She's just not built for the physicality of this league. She's not quick enough to get away from the physicality." End quote. Gino, just say you're a UConn guy and you thought this was going to be Paige, and instead it's Kate.
When NBC Sports called, they didn't ask for permission or wait for alignment. They made a decision. Prime time, an NBA broadcast, millions watching, a platform that didn't need explaining. The impact was immediate. The debut didn't feel like a cameo. It felt like a takeover. Calm delivery, confident analysis, no rookie nerves, no scripted talking points. Viewers noticed. Clips spread, engagement spiked, and within hours, the most uncomfortable metrics surfaced. People weren't just watching, they were staying. Meanwhile, something else happened. Something no one wanted to say out loud. Unfollows.
Caitlin and that class by not being prepared for it, and the fact that so many journalists across the country, institutions failed to cover this league, Like, there's just so many institutionalized failings that now the league is attempting to hurdle over.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest thing, just as far as the product on the floor? Because a lot of people talk about physicality. A lot of people talk about the referees. I actually did a deep dive in one of my episodes talking about like who the referees are calling to, essentially, and where the W gets their referees. But as far as the product, because at the end of the day, fans are not going to stick around if it's not a good product, period.
Right.
Like, they have to be there for...
Not in small numbers, not spread out, but as a wave. Accounts tied closely to league content began to see drops. Secondary projects saw the same decline. Unrivaled, a concept that had promised a different future, started revealing the contrast in real time. The games aired, the effort stayed high, but the audience was thinner than projected. Insiders say the comparison was brutal. One screen pulling in millions, another struggling to hold attention. That's when the panic crept in. Panic doesn't arrive as noise. It arrives as silence. Phones stop ringing. Meetings run longer. Words get chosen more carefully. At the head of the table sat Kathy Engelbert, absorbing updates no spreadsheet could soften. Numbers don't argue, they accuse. And the accusation was simple. The audience had moved. Then came the commentary. Not official statements or press releases, but conversations. Old quotes resurfaced. Tone was dissected. One voice kept being pulled into discussion. Gino Orima. Context matters. Timing matters more. Comments that once sounded like routine competitive talk suddenly read differently against a new backdrop. Not because the words had changed, but because the moment had. Fans connected dots, sometimes unfairly, but loudly, and the narrative hardened. They didn't see her. They didn't value her. They thought they could wait. That's how stories become symbols. And symbols are dangerous when power is being negotiated. Inside the league, reports suggest a scramble began.
Right? Let's see how well y'all do in the 5 years. Then you will have something to fall back on. But yeah, and they were saying the average could be $1 million across the organization, across the league, right? If everything works out perfectly with the 5% extra on top. So, hey, man, I don't know. It seems pretty good to me. Now, they did have some weird things in this improvement here. A few of them would be elimination of that grass testing, all right? That smoke is what we call it down here in Georgia. The smoke, okay? Now, it's crazy you would eliminate the testing, but then you would add new treatment programs for the grass or alcohol abuse. Like, what? Talk about contradicting yourself. I mean, I guess, man. But shorter disqualification periods under anti-drug program. Interesting, man. Complimentary all-star tickets for all players. Now, I thought all players get this anyway, so I don't know. Yeah, okay. And then free WNBA league pass. Man, that's tough. That is tough, man. They can't even watch.
Calls were placed. Reevaluations were ordered. What if we revisit the old framework? Someone asked, what if we sweeten it? Another suggested. A reset was floated, not publicly, but quietly. Do it quietly, because the timing betrayed the intent. Fans read it as begging. Players read it as panic. And an audience already drifting saw confirmation that the system had misread the room. This is where the slap landed. Not from a statement, not from a tweet, but from the numbers. Every appearance outside the league structure amplified the contrast. Every NBC clip widened the gap. Every quiet weekend game with sparse engagement made the difference impossible to hide. Insiders say the most painful realization came late. After the calls, after the drafts, after the endless what-if scenarios. If she had wanted the old deal, it would have happened earlier. Now it was too late.
The only place that is preparing for it. Unrivaled is also a place that is preparing for a strike, and we've heard it from other players. Like we've heard Natasha Cloud say, if there's a strike or there's a lockout in the WNBA, everybody can go and play in Unrivaled. Which brings me to my last point on Unrivaled.
You know, I know a lot of people are kind of like hating about being a part of Unrivaled and also trying to negotiate the WNBA, but it's like, I want two things to both be successful. And literally that's how I'm looking at it. Like, I'm looking at this from a pure business standpoint and how things can be great for everyone. I think that Unrivaled, the only positives, like the only thing that Unrivaled is showing is positive. When you show players on social media or in games or wherever the case may be, people watch.
Right.
So we can't not have that for our summer season in the WNBA.
And this is where a lot of people from the beginning have been calling it a conflict of interest, because it clearly is. And I'm not saying that Breanna Stewart has bad intentions. I don't actually think that she does. But she's saying here, I want two things to both be successful. She cannot come out here and say that she cares about the WNBA more than she cares about Unrivaled, or she cares about Unrivaled more than she does the WNBA. She wants both of them to be successful. It's kind of impossible at this point because you have the WNBA.
Because leverage isn't something you announce. It's something you demonstrate. And she demonstrated it every time she spoke to a national audience that followed her, not the logo. The league didn't lose a negotiation in public. It lost the room. That's the bitter truth the documents exposed. Not bad faith, not villains, just a system built for a slower era, colliding with a player who moved faster than the process. In moments like that, even respected voices get caught in the undertow. Old hierarchies wobble. Established authority feels challenged, not because anyone declared war, but because the crowd chose differently. By the end of the week, one phrase kept circulating among insiders. Can we get her back? It wasn't literal, it was psychological. Could they recapture momentum, re-enter the narrative, convince fans that patience was still the play? The answer came back cold. The audience had already decided. This was a revenge. It didn't need to be. The most effective response was silence. Show up, perform, let the numbers speak. And they did. Because when millions watch without being told to, contracts matter less. When attention moves organically, leverage follows. And when leverage shifts, negotiations stop feeling like talks and start feeling like consequences.
Scheduled to appear as an analyst for the Knicks vs. Thunder on March 29th. He also added that he hopes to see more of Clark moving forward, signaling that the door is open for additional appearances. While no expanded role has been formally announced, the comment suggested genuine interest rather than casual praise, i.e., they're not just blowing smoke up her ass. A growing presence in sports media. Clark's assessed as an analyst fits into a bigger vision for NBC Sports as it looks ahead to its NBA coverage alongside the NFL, Olympics, and streaming platforms. Cordello referenced Clark as an example of how elite athletes can enhance broadcasts with authentic insight. For Clark, it is another step in building a multifaceted career. For NBC, it is a reminder that her voice goes well beyond the box score. Caitlin Clark nailed it, according to the executives, in her NBC speaking analyst role.
That's why this moment felt like a nightmare to those in charge. Not because anyone was attacked, but because control was. The documents didn't just leak terms. They leaked fear. Fear of losing relevance. Fear of being bypassed. Fear that the future wouldn't wait for permission. And the cruelest part was that none of it required confrontation. No press war, no public feud, no angry interviews. Just a platform, an audience, and a decision made earlier than everyone else. By the time the league tried to steady itself, the comparison was already locked in. NBC numbers on one side, struggling engagement on the other, and between them a realization that talent plus timing beats process every time. That's how it ends, not with a bang, but with a shift. A shift where the old deal sounds desperate. The old rules feel optional, and the future no longer waits at the door. Because when the audience follows one person, the system learns too late what it should have done earlier.